Ari Louis Show.
Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Ari Louis Show here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show today. At any time, if you'd like to email the program, you can do so at arilouisshow@hotmail.com, or you can email the station at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. So a Jewish man with the name Ahmed wins the Triple Crown with a horse called American Pharoah. You would think that it's a practical joke, but it's not. You can't make that kind of stuff up. On the line right now to discuss all that good stuff, the value of the horse, the background, the historical significance, big guest, USA Today national sports columnist, ABC News, CNN, and PBS commentator. Back to the program, Christine Brennan. Christine, how you doing out there?
Oh, I'm great, Ari. Great to be on with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, our pleasure. So it sounds like a practical joke, but this is a true story. I want to go first with the background of the owner because we're broadcasting from Israel, and many times we do see horse owners from the Middle East, but we don't see usually a Jewish man. Usually we see people of Saudi Arabian descent or that kind of thing. So maybe it's more rare than I think, but if you just talk about the background, because we in Israel find it very interesting that there's a Jewish man that owns a horse that won the Triple Crown the first time since 1978.
Absolutely, yeah, and from Egypt, and but went to Yeshiva University here in the United States, although he said on his website he went to Harvard, got caught on that. In fact, Ahmed Zayed has certainly had a lot of issues with the law, filed bankruptcy.
Wow.
He's got a pending lawsuit now. People can look up my column the other day from Belmont when I was up there, or I'm sure you could just Google him. But yes, he's a very controversial figure. New Jersey boy by way of Egypt, and but also very supportive of Jewish causes and charities and Israeli causes. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy, but absolutely a fascinating character and controversial as well, as I said, and someone who really has been in the news, of course, the last 5 weeks because of the Triple Crown, and deservedly so, as the owner of the horse that finally broke that 37-year drought. So, he's an interesting character, and obviously is on top of the world as the winner of the Triple Crown.
Yeah, let's delve a little more into character issues. You talk about lawsuits and file for bankruptcy. Many people may not know this, but to get a horse to compete at this type of level, you have to put up a lot of cash. You have to get a lot of people on board and people to believe in your dream. How was he able to do that if he has this mysterious background?
Well, understandably, I am certainly not an expert on him, having just covered him and not even met him. I'm just in press conferences from the Kentucky Derby to the Preakness to the Belmont. So I'm not an expert on him at all. But, it sounds like he enjoys gambling. And from the court papers and court documents and the stories that I've read, it sounds like that may have been some of the trouble that he's gotten into. And so there you go. He's a wheeler dealer. He's as often business people are, and as horse racing owners are, and he's taken a lot of risks, and now he's had a lot of success. The troublesome thing is if in fact, as authorities were alleging, that he ended up having gambling debts, and that might be why he filed bankruptcy. Again, there's a lot of stuff that we all just know because we've just entered this story very late, just finding out about this man. Basically, those of us who don't cover horse racing, and I don't, except for these big races. First time I've ever covered all three, the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont in the same year. I've only covered a couple of horse races in my career. So I am not an expert on him at all, but it sure does sound like he's an interesting character. I labeled him as controversial, and I even said at the end of my column that was online and on my Twitter account at @Brennan Sports. Folks can find it very easily. Just go down about 5 or 6, maybe. I guess a little more than that because of the Belmont on Saturday. But you'll go down a little bit, you'll find it, is that you cheer for the horse, not the owner. And I think that's a good way to describe it based on the controversial nature of his background.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And you'll go to the horse. You mentioned since 1978, again, a firm won. The Triple Crown was the last time before American Pharoah. And you had a bunch of close calls. Smarty Jones in 2004, many people thought Smarty Jones would do it, finished second at the end. I want to know, how was this horse different? The Triple Crown is very difficult to achieve because the races are grueling. It's 3 and 5 weeks, and each one's a little different. In your opinion, Why was, and you've covered, again, the Triple Crown for a long time, even though horse racing is not your expertise, but these three races, why was this horse able to do it as opposed to some of the other ones who've been very, very close since 1978?
That's a great question, Ari, and I think you had actually the opposite of what was appealing, say, for California Chrome last year. Some of the others, Smarty Jones and others, that had these kind of rags to riches appealing stories of owners and people we'd never heard of. This is quite the opposite. Zayat's been around for a while, had, I think, 3 second-place finishes at the Derby. You've got Bob Baffert, one of the best-known trainers in all of the sport, in history, really, of the sport. This was his 4th attempt to win a Triple Crown, having had horses that won the Derby and the Preakness. Came into the Belmont with a chance. This was the 4th horse. 3 previous did not make it. So you've got an incredibly experienced trainer in Bob Baffert, who's so well-known. People like him, don't like him, whatever. I mean, these are known quantities. We're talking about the New England Patriots here. We're talking about Belichick and Kraft. You know, we're talking about people who are really, really known in the industry, not Johnny-come-latelys. And then you've got Victor Espinosa, the jockey. This was his 3rd attempt at winning the Triple Crown. By that I mean having had a horse that won both the Derby and the Preakness, coming in as the jockey with the chance. He'd just been here last year with California Chrome. Just last year, this jockey had a chance to win the Triple Crown. So you've got incredible experience, top to bottom, owner, trainer, jockey, on a horse that was already seen as the best horse of the year. Obviously, there was talk of Dortmund. There was Materiality. There were other horses that were in the mix at the Derby and the Preakness, and then, of course, the Belmont. But American Pharoah from the get-go was talked about as the horse of 2015. So you've got that, a talented horse dominating. You've got this incredible brain trust of owner, trainer, jockey. Makes perfect sense that this would be the one to do it.
And you go to Bob Baffert. I remember 2002 very vividly when he had the first 2 lengths of the Triple Crown, Kentucky Derby, the Preakness. He seemed very, very confident going to the Belmont. War Emblem basically tripped at the start of that race, and that's what cost him there. So he had a lot of fire, I'm sure, going into this because of the close calls. When you talk about horses of all time, obviously the standard is Secretariat. I'm sure people would probably say he's number 1 overall, but I want to know where American Pharoah ranks because winning the Triple Crown is so rare, and again, he's the first one to do it since '78. But I want to know where he ranks towards Secretary. I know his overall time is not as quick, but he did some things maybe a little different. He has tougher competition. So I wonder if you could compare American Pharoah to Secretariat.
Yeah, I think the comparison is it's apples to oranges, and we're talking very fast apples to
right.
not quite as fast oranges. Secretariat 31-lane victory in the Belmont. I mean, he's the horse that stands the test of time, and I don't think there's anything certainly so far that we've seen that would approach that. Hard to believe there would be because the way horses are being bred, it's just a different. They're breeding them for speed and not necessarily durability, and not necessarily going over the three horses over 3 tracks and 3 horse races over 5 weeks. So I'm not sure we'll ever see Secretariat again. Secretariat by a nose, but by more than a nose, by lengths and lengths and lengths. And in fact, USA Today had a great video up. People can find it, I'm sure, easily, just putting the name Secretariat, American Pharoah, and USA Today. And you can watch the 2 races side by side and see how different it is. It's extraordinary. Black and white for Secretariat, color, of course, for American Pharoah. It's fascinating. So I highly suggest that, usatoday.com video, or just put in the names and they can Google that. So anyway, I think that that there's just almost no comparison. It's also those were the glory days of racing in the 70s. 3 Triple Crowns in 5 years, 6 seasons, with Secretariat in '73, Seattle Slew in '77, and then Affirmed in '78. And a great battle, Affirmed and Aladar in the Derby, in the Preakness, in the Belmont. Aladar could have been the Triple Crown winner. I mean, that was just a great rivalry of 2 horses, and each time Aladar finishing second, which, again, we don't see anything like that. So I'm not sure I would put this horse up there with, above any of those 3 for sure. I don't, Citation and some of those great horses from the past. I just know from the record books, the history books, and seeing old grainy videos. I don't know anything about them other than that. But I think we just take it as it is. This is a great horse. It was a wonderful moment. Will it change horse racing? No. Will anyone go to the track who's not going to the track? No. It's a one-off. It's spectacular, and let's not make it more than it is. And so from that standpoint, I think American Pharoah is excellent, one of the best ever, certainly in one of now 12 horses that have won the Triple Crown, Ari, which, again, that by itself I think is just a wonderful historical fact and worthy of the horse and worthy of the moment.
Again, this is the Ari Louis Show here on IsraelSportsNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. Our guest is Christine Brennan talking about Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. Just a little perspective for those of you listening about Secretariat. Ranked number 33rd all-time according to ESPN Sports Century. That list released in 1999. It's ahead of Mickey Mantle. That's ahead of Sandy Koufax, ahead of O.J. Simpson. So it just tells you where that horse is. In the few minutes we have left for you, Christine, I want to talk about money because there is a lot on the table in regards what will happen now. Going with American Pharoah, they're talking about his value, what he's worth on the market. I've heard it's potentially $100 million. I don't know if that's just a rumor made up, but obviously they're going to want to put him out to stud at some point when his career is over. I want to know the value of the horse in dollar figures and projections based on his studying abilities, where that is.
That's a great question. There's millions and millions of dollars to be made. I'm not an expert on this at all. And in fact, frankly, to me, it's over. That's interesting, but I cover sports and I cover races and I cover issues in sports, and so, he's, as I wrote my column and I put on Twitter and Facebook, thank you very much for the unbelievable, fabulous Belmont and this great 5 weeks, and goodbye. We'll see the horse once or twice more. They're talking about running him this summer maybe, and then in the Breeders' Cup, and then that's probably it. Goodbye. I mean, the vast majority of us will never see this horse again. The vast majority of people will not watch the Breeders' Cup. The vast majority will not watch whatever summer race he's in. The vast majority didn't watch the Belmont. Got a 12 or 13 rating in the United States. So let's give it a 13, that means 87% of the country did not watch. That's percentages. So, keeping everything in perspective. Some of these horses are great at breeding and having horses in their lineage who are as equally as good or as fast, and others are not. Secretariat is known for not producing great horses coming after him, and but some are. So I just don't know that we know this. The father of American Pharoah now will become more of a interesting horse to have for breeders, because now he has sired the Triple Crown winner this year. But as far as what it all means and the money, there's tons of it. I'm sure that Zayat will get every ounce of it. He may need it, depending on all of his lawsuits and all the people that are going after him. There's a libel suit now that he's facing after another suit got dismissed last week. There's a lot of, you'll have some. Everyone will allow for some time if you want to look at the Zayat files and what he's up to and his legal history. I'm sure he would say, well, people are just going after him, and that's just not fair. Well, whatever. There's two sides to every story. But there's a lot. There's a lot there, a lot more than I'm used to when I'm covering sports, except the police blotter with some of these athletes. But anyway, bottom line is I think that, off to Kentucky they go, and I think American Pharoah will be a very popular horse in terms of people wanting to come and see him on the horse farm, and it's a great moment. It's a wonderful thing. But as far as most sports fans, he's gone, and it was great, and he gave us one of the great gifts of the year, and just one of my favorite sports events ever, covering 16 Olympics in a row, Ari. This is certainly in my top 10 or 15 all-time things I've covered, covering the 3 races of the Triple Crown this year. So that horse is spectacular, and I hope he has a lot of fun in retirement.
Yeah, a couple races ago, he is undefeated. Last question I have for you. You think he'll stay undefeated? Only 2 races to go. I guess he'll be a target. People want to beat him maybe more than usual, and there may be more pressure. But you figure the hard part's over. You think he ends up his career undefeated?
I like this about Zayat, where he said, he goes, we're not afraid. We'll just put him out there and see what happens. I don't think anything, there's that's a conversation. I'm glad you asked, because that's a conversation. Oh, retire on top, and this could tarnish your image. Oh, baloney. This horse just won the Triple Crown, first time in 37 years. There's nothing that's going to touch that. If he goes out and loses in the summer in the Travers or Saratoga or Monmouth or Del Mar, wherever he goes, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I mean, people will notice, people will care. There'll be more people watching than before, even though most people will probably be into baseball and football and whatever else is going on at the time. But because that's our American pastimes, not horse racing, and horse racing, unfortunately, is certainly not where it was in the pantheon of American sports 50, 60, 70 years ago. mostly because gambling was allowed at the track. Now there's gambling everywhere, so you don't have to go to a horse track, hence the demise of horse racing. That's a big part of the conversation. But, I think that if American Pharoah wins or loses, goes the Breeders' Cup wins or loses, doesn't matter. Obviously, it'd be great to have him finish undefeated, so that would be nice. But in terms of his legacy and what he means, that's already set and done. The Triple Crown is his, and they can obviously enjoy that forever. Nothing will change that.
All right, there you have it. Christy Brennan, USA Today National Sports Columnist, also ABC News, CNN, PBS commentator, talking about the first Triple Crown winner in about 35 years, American Pharoah, owned by Ahmed. He said he went to Harvard, but we know he went to Yeshiva University. It's a fine institution, nothing to be ashamed of. So hopefully he won't have to change anything about that. Christine, thank you for the time. We really appreciate it. Glad you got to enjoy the races and a great, great moment in sports history, one of the tops of 2015. So thank you so much for being on the Ari Louis Show on Israel Sports News Radio.
Oh, Ari, my pleasure. Love being on with you. Call anytime. Take care.
Take care. Be well.